At 8-2, both these players right now tied for 6th in the tournament. Jim Davis, of course, the 2015 Players Champion.
And something you might be wondering about with a lot of these Jeskai control decks, they play some number of oaths, maybe Oath of Jace to combo with their Felidar Guardian. None of that in Parnell's list.
And we start the game. Parnell on a 5-card hand, Jim on 7, so that's going to be difficult as Justin's on the play. Especially in this kind of matchup, I think what he'll have to watch out for is, can he hit his land drops?
Right, land drops are crucial in any of these Glimmer of Genius mirrors. Getting to 7 mana is often very important, being able to cast Glimmer and Disallow in the same turn.
Well, so far so good for Parnell. It looks like he's got 2 lands in play and numbers 3 and 4 already in the hand. And if Parnell needs to take some turns to set up, Jim doesn't have too many ways to punish him. There's no early drop creature. You know, there's not going to be a Glint Sleeve Siphoner or something that gets Jim extra cards.
Jim does not win fast games. It's just not what his deck is here to do.
Yeah. And Justin Parnell, end step, Anticipate finds a copy of Glimmer of Genius, and then he draws blue Gearhulk for the turn. So yes, he's on 5 cards, but he's got a plan for coming back.
Yeah.
His hand is lands 4/5, Glimmer, and Gearhulk. That's pretty great. And now here's his first chance. He has land 4, and he can decide to main phase the Glimmer to get around Disallow or end step it. Looks like he'll go ahead and just pass, looking for the end step.
And he would be playing into Negate, notably. I don't know if he has been reading Jim's articles. Jim does have 3 main deck Negates.
End step Glimmer. Does Jim have the counter? Let's see. You know, Jim's hand, look at this here. We have 2 Fatal Pushes and I think 2 Grasp of Darknesses. So the answer is no. Glimmer of Genius resolves.
Whether or not you fight over Glimmer is actually a really interesting decision. Considering that Parnell's on 4 lands and has mulligan twice, that is very inviting to fight over the counter spell, the draw spell.
Right.
You don't always in these kind of matchups, just because you only have so many counter spells and they only have so many spells that can actually kill you. But here, I think this was a pretty good window to fight it if Jim had it.
The draw is a Saheeli and a counterspell for Parnell, so despite being on 5 cards, he may have more live spells right now than Jim Davis. He'll go for Saheeli Rai. If Glimmer resolved, why not Saheeli? And yeah, Jim's hand of Grasp, Murder, and 2 Fatal Pushes is looking really poor right now.
He has a lot of answers to Felidar Guardian, so he's not dead to the combo, but this Saheeli is probably going to be sticking around for a while.
Yeah, it's going to stick around, and on top of that, Jim had a Jace he may have wanted to try for, and now by doing that, he would be dead to Felidar Guardian. It's probably just something he can't do.
Right. Gonna have to wait until he has a lot of lands.
Whoa, and for Jim, he does not, speaking of a lot of lands, Jim is actually the first one to miss a land drop. On his turn, he moves to clean up and discards a Fatal Push.
So it's looking like Jim has a hand that'd be really good against something like the green-black deck.
Just right.
And just is not lining up here.
Parnell pulls ahead on lands as Saheeli continues to scry. For Jim, no lands on the way, draws a blue Gearhulk, says go. Parnell now really threatening to run away with this. He's going to play Torrential Gearhulk.
Gearhulk for Glimmer is a really big game in these blue mirrors.
Yeah, Unstep Gearhulk for Glimmer is big. Justin Parnell next turn can copy the Gearhulk if it survives. I would assume, I mean, Jim's got a lot of removal, so the Gearhulk's probably dead. But Justin's going to draw cards.
This is a tough spot because, you know, Jim is going to be dead to a Felidar Guardian if he has to, you know, use his removal spells, all of his mana on this Gearhulk, but he's pretty dead to just Gearhulk copy Gearhulk.
Yeah, so if he casts Murder on the Gearhulk, the problem is Parnell gets a Glimmer of Genius to find 1 Felidar Guardian to win. Not really into that. But if he lets Gearhulk survive and Justin goes for a -2 on the Gearhulk, I mean, that's no good either. Well, looks like the Glimmer will resolve. Spell Queller and land. Parnell wants neither. Draws Fumigate land. And now Jim does go for the Murder. He'll leave himself dead to the Felidar Guardian if Justin can produce one. Well, and he draws it. And there is the 1/4 and the combo. Jim, yeah, a bunch of removal spells. Those are not going to help him. Justin Parnell takes the first game.
Yeah, Jim, again, he had the draw that would have been really good against Winding Constrictors. Really bad against Glimmer Genius Torrential Gearhulk.
Wow. So, Jim Davis in a 1-game hole here. Now, and I got to say, he had a lot of dead cards that game, and I have to think he's going to improve a lot on sideboarding. Let's go over to sideboard and look at what he's got.
Sure. So for Jim Davis, we have 3 Dispel, 2 Deadweight, 2 Fathom Feeder, 2 Ruinous Path, a Blighted Cataract, a Fatal Push, a Kalitas Trader Get, a Negate, a Sphinx of the Final Word, and a To the Slaughter.
There's a lot to like here.
Yes. Negate is excellent. It can counter Glimmer, it can counter Saheeli Rai. This card's quite good. It can fight a counter war. To the Slaughter is a great answer to the combo, or it can take care of a Torrential Gearhulk that snuck through. Sphinx of the Final Word is quite good if the matchup is just control. Given that Parnell is a combo deck, it's not going to be nearly as good in this kind of matchup. Tapping that much mana for Sphinx is a little tough. Once you get to 9 mana and you have Sphinx plus Negate, it's a little bit different, so there's an argument for bringing that in. Very likely that Jim is bringing in this Blighted Cataract, largely because it's another land. Yeah. And he just doesn't ever want to miss a land drop, and it can also break up the combo or kill a Torrential Gearhulk. I'm curious to see if Jim brings in Fathom Feeder.
Yeah, so Fathom Feeder is this interesting card that we really haven't seen too much of. But it's the 2 mana 1/1, and for 5 mana he draws a card.
Yes.
And so he can do all his card draw on end step. If Jim really just wants to play draw go, Fathom Feeder is great.
Yeah, it's likely that Parnell doesn't want any removal spells post sideboard against Jim, so the Fathom Feeder can potentially sneak in and really shine in that situation. And the Dispels, Jim is likely expecting to fight Counter Wars, so Dispel should be coming in as well.
Yeah, so we're basically, these Fatal Pushes, they're gone. Murder's gone. He's upgrading some of his removal spells and getting a lot of counters. Jim's going to gain a lot.
Reasonable chance that Murder is staying in, because it can kill Torrential Gearhulk and Felidar Guardian.
Fair enough. Justin Parnell sideboard 2 negates of his own and a Dispel of his own, so probably using that to fight the counter war. And then he has some interesting kinds of threats. A Nahiri, he's got 3 Elder Deep Fiends, a Barrel's Expertise, 2 Chandras. Much of this does he want?
So Elder Deep Fiend is really interesting in Parnell's deck because he does not really have much in the way of enabling the emerge.
So he's like playing it for 8?
Seems like it's going to cost 8 a lot of the time, but even at 8 mana, I don't hate this card in this matchup.
No, I mean, what you can end step it on 8, tap Jim out or tap him low, and then go for the combo. Like, this sets up a great counter war in a really weird way.
Yeah. So we'll see how Elder Deep Fiend plays out here. The Planeswalkers, the Nahiri is just excellent as a value Planeswalker. You can find your Torrential Gearhulks. The card's very powerful in these kind of matchups.
I guess if Jim doesn't have any cards like Transgress to take care of Elder Deep Fiend, Justin could sit on that for a while.
Yeah. I like Justin's Chandra Torch of Defiance a good amount. Both can accelerate his mana to have more mana to combo plus leave up counters. It'll come in nicely here if Jim has Fathom Feeder. You can just kill that one and not have to worry about your Chandra being attacked in any capacity.
Yeah, we'll see how it plays that out. Both players are going to go more toward counter spells and I guess like Planeswalkers. They get ready for the second game. Over at Star City Games, we of course have had game night going for over a year now. Those are basically just tournaments run near you where starts giving away exclusive pins and tokens every week. So for January, we're giving away the Squeaky Cheeky Acorn Breaker pin and token you see here. February, this is going to be just starting next week, you can get your hands on the Corgi Firewalker. It's our Pro Red pup here. And now we can debut the March promotion is going to be the Delve card from Cons. Of course, it's Pig Through Time. All these part of the creature collection.
Pig Through Time is the GOAT. This is just the greatest.
No, it's a pig.
Oh, yeah, but also it's a GOAT.
No, this card is excellent. So if you get signed up now, you can go online to find a store near you, and if you're a store owner, you can get signed up in time for the March promotion. All of that available at starcitygames.com/gamenight. And that last game, a convincing win for Parnell, despite being on a mulligan to 5. Jim's hand really did not come together.
Missing land drops in these mirrors is really bad. Not having enough interaction to deal with 2 things, also really bad.
And Parnell will be back to the mulligans. Did not hurt him last time, though. For Jim Davis, 2015, he was the Players' Champion. The captain of Team Metagame Guru is also one of the more popular streamers now over on Twitch. For the 32-year-old from the New York area, he has 11 open top 8s along with 2 wins, 3 invitational top 8s, and then, of course, I mentioned his win at the Players' Championship, the second one in Roanoke.
Quite the pedigree for Jim Davis.
And a good weekend again for the Metagame Gurus. Jim at 8-2. Teammate Dan Jessup 9-1 in a 5-way tie for first.
Dan was the only Metagame Guru not to make the Players' Championship last year, and he's looking to have a good year. You know, he wants to outperform his team for sure.
All right, Parnell keeping on 6 as we're on to the second game. And you see Parnell scrying just a land to the top. Once again, just prioritizing those so highly. And for Jim, if they have come in out of the sideboard, a turn 2 copy of Fathom Feeder.
I like it.
I'd like it, and I'm not sure that Justin has many ways to answer this card. I don't know how many he's left in.
Justin has left in Spell Queller.
Okay, so it could block. Jim will get to ingest cards off Justin's library. That's one of the mechanics from Battle for Zendikar. Jim actually doesn't utilize that at all, but 1 damage, and he'll exile a card off Justin's deck.
Something that is neat. Oh, okay. So 2 things that are neat, I guess. So Justin's not playing a lot of Torrential Gearhulks. There's only 2 in the deck, and one of them just got exiled.
That was maybe the best card he could hit.
The other thing is, if you're able to connect with the Fathom Feeder and it exiles a Saheeli Rai or a Felidar Guardian, you get that information on whether the combo is still in Parnell's deck.
Won't get the other blue Gearhulk. Justin Parnell did draw it off the Anticipate. That's always a strategy with milling, right? You mill their good cards so they can't draw them.
Yeah.
Third land for Parnell as we go back to Jim. Jim has to respect Spell Queller as a surprise blocker now.
Well, he does have Death Touch, so he at least gets a trade.
Yeah, he's going to throw that blocker in. And Jim still has Grasp of Darkness in the deck, takes care of Spell Queller. 1 more damage to Parnell. Gets a copy of Negate. Now, Jim's hand pretty good here. He has a Negate back up in his hand. And next turn he has 5 mana, so we're really going to get to see Fathom Feeder in action. Remember, its ability for 5 mana, Jim draws a card.
Slightly less mana efficient Dimir Guildmage.
Yeah, but Dimir Guildmage
Was a
was
sorcery.
but that's night and day with this sort of effect.
Azure Mage was instant, right?
Yes, Azure Mage was
Okay.
instant. Well, speaking of instant card draw, Justin's going to go for Glimmer of Genius on Jim's end step. He could negate, but he costs himself a card by negating here.
Yeah, it's going to be a question of just how much interaction Jim has.
And nice. Jim's just going to let that resolve. Now, Ryan, we didn't actually see an attack with Fathom Feeder this turn. I suppose there was 4 mana up. He didn't want to run it into another Spell Queller.
That's got to be the argument here. Jim wants this thing to stick around. Now that he has 5 mana, he can start drawing cards.
Yeah, this is going to be really good.
This should signal to Parnell that Jim doesn't have removal spells, though. Parnell is not yet in the range where he has enough lands to untap and cast both combo pieces.
Actually, if Jim had a removal spell, he may not attack anyway, right? Because by playing it, he'd be costing himself the card draw, and what's 1 damage anyway?
That's a good point.
End step. Jim's going to draw a card.
And Parnell looks like he's missed his 5th land drop.
Ooh. Jim stuck on 4 last game. That ended up hurting him very strongly. And now Jim just going to draw cards. Plays land 6. He's got 2 blue Gearhulks in his hand. You see land go. I love the play style that's going on here.
Yes.
Jim's hand lands 5 cards. He has land number 7, land number 8, 2 Torrential Gearhulks, and a negate. And you see Parnell just end-stepping a Spell Queller. Jim will let that happen all day.
No reason to fight over that.
Second Saheeli Rai is the draw for Parnell. So Parnell's hand's having the opposite problem. He's got Elder Deep Fiend, Torrential Gearhulk, Disallow, 2 Saheeli Rais, Felidar Guardian. He's got the whole combo. But as you mentioned, in these control mirrors, it's the lands that are the most important thing.
Yeah, like Disallow is nice if Jim has some reason to cast his Torrential Gearhulk, but once he gets in the range where he can Gearhulk plus Counterspell, you need more than just 1 Disallow.
Felidar Guardian, the play for Parnell. Just going to run out the 1/4. Jim actually does not... If he wants to answer this, he'd have to Gearhulk that Grasp of Darkness.
I'd be pretty okay with doing that.
I also like drawing a card.
Drawing a card is nice.
Drawing a card's so good. Justin getting another energy up Aether Hub. Passes. We'll see. Does Jim want a card? No.
It is important to make land drops, but Jim has 2 more lands in hand, which means he doesn't have spells in those slots.
Right.
So being proactive with the Gearhulk makes a lot of sense.
And he will. End step Gearhulk, Grasp of Darkness on the Guardian. And now actually Jim gets a clock. Gearhulk can start attacking for 5. And as Jim has land 7, he can start leaving up Negate and Fathom Feeder in the same turn.
Yes.
Parnell back to a 6-card hand. He does draw his land for the turn. Make that still 6 cards. He had 7. We've got an Elder Deep Fiend in hand, and he could emerge it. 2 Saheeli Rise, a blue Gearhulk, a counterspell, and a Felidar Guardian.
So Gearhulk is pretty effective if Parnell's in a position to try to shove the combo through. Just playing on the table against Torrential Gearhulk, it just bounces.
The counter spells in Justin's hand, the issue here is when you're behind on mana, it feels like he can't, you know, disallow not looking good at the moment. So it's going to be Saheeli Rai for Parnell. He's got a negate to back it up, so he's playing that one on 5 mana. Jim's going to fight. He'll negate. Justin likely to negate back here. And he will.
And then after that, Jim probably lets it go and draws a card.
Yeah, well, I don't even think Jim doesn't have a choice, right? His hand is land and Gearhulk.
Right. I mean, I think even if he had the choice, though.
Oh, yeah, even if he had another counter spell, that yeah, this would be fine.
Gearhulk just attacks Saheeli. I mean,
You're right, yeah, it's not even bad.
I mean, it will, you know, eat the spell queller if the Saheeli matters. Jim does have to find some interaction. You know, there's some ways where this game can go very badly from here.
So it's Fathom Feeder again, a card and an exile. Jim drawing a Dispel.
Okay, so now he has Gearhulk for negate plus Dispel backup. You can't negate Felidar Guardian, though.
So right, if Parnell just casts Felidar Guardian, well, I was going to say Jim would be dead to that, but now draws 2 the Slaughter.
That was a good pickup.
Well, and that's what I like about this blue-black deck. So many of his cards are just generic answers to things. Like, you know, to the Slaughter, and that answers most things. Negate, disallow. So Torrential Gearhulk is going to attack Saheeli Rai. And Jim using his advantage on the board, really, to just get extra cards here. You know, he's going to get this Spell Queller for free.
Yep.
Or he'll get the Saheeli Rai for free, even better.
Yeah, right.
You know, now he's there, play a land, say go. Land 6 for Parnell. He now is in his own Gearhulk territory.
Jim just 2 lands off of double Fathom Feeder activation.
Oh wow, I can only wish. Here's another Fathom Feeder. This is the 3rd card Jim has drawn off Fathom Feeder.
I like this technology a lot.
Yeah, this is already looking really good. And you see no end step to the Slaughter. He'll just take another turn. Untaps, draws Ruinous Path. I was wondering if some of those were still in. Looking very good here. And most importantly, Jim's making more land drops. Land number 9, and he has the 10th in hand.
Yeah, Jim in a pretty commanding position here.
Yeah, I want to see this. Now you've got me. I'm just focused on these 2 activations of Fathom Feeder. It's just, oh wow, that's everything I want to be doing right now.
Pretty much. I've registered as your mage.
Tap 10, draw 2, draw like, I don't know, negate and Ruinous Path. That sounds good. That covers most things. Jim's hand is just this cast of really good answers to cards. Justin Parnell's going to go for a Torrential Gearhulk. The one thing Jim does not have is a hard counter yet. So Torrential Gearhulk resolves. He doesn't have a way to answer it. It looks like Ick's going to go for Glimmer of Genius.
As a Torrential Gearhulk is wont to do.
But this isn't even that bad, right? Jim can just block. If we get into this, we're looking like we're in a real control fight now. And as long as Justin's not killing Fathom Feeder, I'd be really surprised if he can win this game.
Right.
You know, and Jim, I like this. He dispels the Glimmer of Genius, letting the Gearhulk resolve. So the Glimmer is still exiled.
And Jim made no attack here. Torrential Gearhulk definitely on his radar. The double block would force him to use some of this removal spells, and he's just really not on board with that just yet.
Yes, we counters the card draw. Because Jim wants to what? He wants to play a card economy game, right? Jim trades 1 card for Justin's 1 card. Jim taps Fathom Feeder. This is good.
Yep.
A 5/6, I mean, that's fine. Jim has a kill spell in hand. He could take a hit of 5 for a bit. Like, these are all okay things. Saheeli Rai the play for Parnell. And now we'll see if Jim wants to fight. He's got 2 the Slaughter and Torrential Gearhulk. He's going to go for Torrential Gearhulk.
You certainly don't want Saheeli to copy Torrential Gearhulk.
Well, it's going to disallow is the play by Parnell. He catches Jim's Gearhulk. And so Saheeli Rai resolves. Because Justin had to play a counterspell, we're not worried about Felidar Guardian just yet.
It is fortunate that that Glimmer was exiled, so the Gearhulk's only going to be able to get back Anticipate, I believe, is in the graveyard.
Yeah, Anticipate and some counterspells.
But even just anticipating for free is not bad.
Interesting one here, Ryan. Because that Gearhulk was countered, Jim now has Artifact, Creature, and Instant in the graveyard. I believe his hand is To the Slaughter, Ruinous Path, so...
Can clean this board up nicely.
Yeah, he can get the Delirium going on To the Slaughter.
Kill one of your creatures, make you sacrifice your other 2 non-land permanents.
Creature and or Planeswalker? Or maybe both. I like the and.
I'm feeling both.
Yeah. And Justin actually did not copy Gearhulk. He used the Saheeli Rai to scry. So we go back over to Jim Davis. 4 cards remaining in hand. Does have those two cards, the Ruinous Path and the To the Slaughter. I suppose he can get even more value, right? If he Ruinous Paths the Gearhulk and just attacks Saheeli, then Justin's in that spot again where Jim just gets free value.
Jim's thinking a little bit bigger.
Oh, are we awakening this land? Oh, wow. You're right. This is great. If you awaken the swamp, you will get Saheeli Rai.
Yes.
So it makes the swamp into a 4/4. Everything comes at Saheeli Rai. Planeswalker is going to go down.
He is going shields down here, though. He does not have the mana to cast To the Slaughter here.
Yeah, if Justin just has both parts of the combo. Well, Jim has 1 blue card in hand we're not sure of. He's got To the Slaughter.
Parnell is certainly not looking like he has it. Yeah, Deep Fiend. I think he has Guardian Deep Fiend.
Yeah, we'll play a land. Can say go. He could still, if he draws Saheeli, could set up that end step tap Jim low with Deep Fiend.
Yeah.
But now, Jim's got 10 power on the board. He took a risk by awakening Ruinous Path, but now that the risk paid off, the game could be over quickly.
Right.
Which means we're not going to see 2 Fathom Feeder activations, which I'm kind of sad about.
And I believe Horribly Awry, the counterspell in Jim's hand.
And yeah, Glimmer of Genius, Horribly Awry, and To the Slaughter are his last 3 cards. Just looks pretty good. Jim wants to know the graveyard, just in case another Torrential Gearhulk is in Parnell's hand. So just how bad will things be?
Most of these Jeskai Saheeli decks are just playing 2 Torrential Gearhulk.
Right, and Jim's gotten, remember he exiled 1 of them with Fathom Feeder.
It's definitely inside the realm of possibility that somebody just plays another copy, or even just sideboards a 3rd copy in for matchups like this.
Right. I think a 4th one would be unlikely, but a 3rd is fine.
I mean, Jim's got 4.
Jim plays it safe. He's not going to swing the 4/4. Does not want to give that to a Gearhulk. So Parnell will go to 8.
Yeah, I mean, the attack's not lethal anyway.
And it means we're leaving up 10 mana, Ryan.
I like it.
I wonder what we could do with that number. Land number 8 for Parnell. He passes. Let's just draw some cards. Just more. More cards sounds great. Here's 1 off Fathom Feeder. And I like it when you have Glimmer of Genius in your hand and you just don't play it. Just all right. Yes, mission accomplished. 5. We've now drawn 5 cards off Fathom Feeder. MVP of the game.
And when you draw a Fathom Feeder, you also exile the top card of your opponent's library, and there goes Elder Deep Fiend. So now Jim Davis knows that those are in the deck.
The problem is Fathom Feeder is so good that it's making cards like Blighted Cataract just look irrelevant. Why would I ever sack my land when I could just have a card? Gearhulk hits again. Now, it's looking like this game is going to go to Jim Davis, and he'll have drawn 5 to 7 cards off Fathom Feeder. Okay, if you're in Justin Parnell's spot, you have to address this when you go to game 3, right?
I mean, your cards that are good against Fathom Feeder are bad against everything else Jim is doing. It's kind of a hard spot. I could see
I agree,
having
yeah,
some small number of Harness Lightning. You can Glimmer and make enough energy to kill a Torrential Gearhulk with that one.
So Jim attacks. Parnell's going to play Elder Deep Fiend, tapping some of Jim's mana. Tapping. He tried to get him all the way off black mana, but that one's not possible. Can tap him down to 2 swamps. Jim will float the mana and cast Glimmer of Genius. Getting Disallow and Swamp. I mean, he's got him covered with a lot of counter spells here.
Yeah.
I suppose he draws 2 Disallows.
Well, Deep Fiend is not yet resolved.
Okay.
So that one
so
should
it's
be
not gonna.
still disallowable.
Or, you know, you could even let it resolve.
Yeah.
Right?
Those are both fine plays.
I probably let it resolve. Ah, yes, good, he did. Big fan. Blocked it. Jim's, yeah, that's fine. That's fine. I'll just sit here on disallow, horribly awry, and we'll see if you can win the game through that.
Yeah, Parnell was only drawing up to his 2nd card in hand. It's going to be pretty tough to beat 2 counter spells.
Spell Queller is the swings, and now Parnell will play Felidar Guardian.
That is a 4-mana 1/4.
And Jim will exile it horribly awry. Conveniently has 5 more lands left untapped. Let me just get card number 6 off this Fathom Feeder. Oh yeah, there we go. We're gonna mill them. That's our plan. That would be the win con I want is if I activate Fathom Feeder enough times, maybe I can exile your deck. I guess I'll draw mine at the same speed. So I need like one mill card.
These decks are very light on win conditions. It's definitely possible to kill all of their.
To mill their win cons?
It's not something that's like going to come up very often. Frequently what happens is one player just ends up pulling ahead on cards, as you saw Jim Davis do in that game. Once you're ahead on cards, you're going to be able to counter their stuff that kills your threats if it matters.
Right, like if I've drawn enough cards off Fathom Feeder that I'm milling most of your win cons, I bet you've lost.
Yeah.
All right, like that works out. Jim draws 6 off a Fathom Feeder that game. You know,
it's going to be the odd game where somehow both players are able to generate a lot of extra cards.
Yeah.
And then
if we have dueling Fathom Feeders or something like that.
If both players are resolving Torrential Gearhulks and then immediately having them killed.
This sounds great.
And they just have 7 cards in hand and they're passing back and forth. Just some good, honest magic.
I want to play this. I want to play this game you're describing. This sounds great. All right, I'm going back to the sideboards. So if Parnell wants to try to answer Fathom Feeder, because the card really did a number on him. He doesn't actually have much on the sideboard that can answer it. He's probably looking at something in the main deck.
It's likely Harness Lightning. I don't know if it's all 4.
Yeah.
That seems heavy-handed. But the entire argument is that Harness Lightning can sometimes get Torrential Gearhulk. Declaration in Stone is not going to be good in games that go this long. So I'm pretty sure that Harness Lightning is the answer.
What about something like Chandra? You know, he has some in the sideboard. That's not a horrible card to bring in.
And Chandra was one that I was kind of expecting anyway. We didn't see one in Game 1. That does not mean it's not in the deck.
Right.
I definitely like it, especially now that you've seen Fathom Feeder.
Well, that much makes sense. And you did see Parnell going back to his sideboard there. He switched just a couple of cards. So maybe some of the removal as a nod to the 1/1. Mm-hmm. Over at StarCityGames.com, we have our newsletter. That's, of course, the free publication. Happens every week. You get highlights from our most recent events. So the match of the week is available there. Maybe see some of the coverage from this weekend. You also get to learn about game nights, invitational qualifiers, and upcoming SCG tour dates, and then some exclusive advice from the top players on the tour. All that is now free, so there's no reason not to. StarCityGames.com/newsletter.
Mm-hmm. Different featured writer every month. Always great content in the newsletter. It's free.
Game number 3 between Parnell and Jim Davis. You know, and it is often the kind of, in these matchups, what we've seen so far is the first player to miss a land drop has lost both games.
Land drops are paramount. Frequently in matchups like this, you'll even want to take the draw just to make sure you can keep up on that. The combo convolutes that a little bit. The fact that Jim Davis really wants to cast Fathom Feeder on turn 2 convolutes that a little bit.
If when Jim's on the draw, negate is his only way to interact with Saheeli. Yep. So there may be, he may not want to do that. What I do like about Jim's deck, though, is between cards like Ruinous Path, Negate, to the Slaughter, like, he just has a lot of answers.
Yes.
You know? He could take the draw and be okay. Mm-hmm. There's just trade lands to start. For Jim, it's Fathom Feeder again. All right. This won him the last game. I was wondering if we saw Harness Lightning from Parnell. No, but we will see an Anticipate.
Yeah, not seeing any red cards in his holdings.
Picks up a Saheeli Rai.
If only that could deal a damage to a creature.
That'd be
Well, that card would actually just be absurd.
Yeah, I feel like that. We would have seen a lot more play.
Probably
of that
would
card.
have been played before the combo.
Saheeli, though. Justin will take the negate free turn to cast Saheeli. +1 it to Scry, deal 1 to Jim. Card stays on top. Now, Fathom Feeder is not going to become a problem until turn 5. So Justin's got a few more turns to find a way to kill it.
Right.
11 a.m. Sealed Spectacular players, your pairings are posted. Please find your seats.
Ruinous Path hits Saheeli, and I like this from Jim. And Justin, Justin scried a card to the top.
Yep.
So now Jim ingests it, and you see Glimmer of Genius is gone.
Just something you used to see a lot in Standard with Night Veil Spectre. Scrying was pretty awkward against that card.
Fourth land from Parnell. We'll see if he has another Glimmer. He wanted the first. I don't think he's going to get that one. Now Jim, he's going to just be happy to trade some land drops. Jim has a Glimmer of his own.
And not attacking into Spell Queller.
Yeah.
This Fathom Feeder draws cards.
I like that. Felidar Guardian the pickup for Parnell. Says go. Jim's going to try to draw some cards. And it looks like that's going to work. Parnell has negate and disallow, but choosing not to fight over draw spells.
Yeah, with Jim already having access to the Fathom Feeder, keeping up on card advantage is going to be tough in the first place. And if he's light on interaction, using it on the draw spell, not always where you want to be.
Fifth land for Davis. Kept both cards on top with the Glimmer of Genius. Picking up a Ruinous Path on another land. Jim very wisely just prioritizing lands here.
Yes. Board's up to 28 of them.
That's so many. End step, Fathom Feeder, activation by Jim. This is a window where Parnell could blue Gear Hulk. He's not going to do it. So the count, the Fathom Feeder count now at 1 for Jim. And I love this. Just, yeah, as long as he's got that card online, he's just not going to do anything. Torrential Gear Hulk from Justin Parnell. Will Jim fight over this one? He's got the cards to do it. And he will disallow. Anticipate was in the graveyard, so Jim not wanting to give Parnell the 2-for-1.
Yeah, and even though the Fathom Feeder has Death Touch, Jim doesn't want to make that trade. The Fathom Feeder's worth a lot more than a Torrential Gear Hulk once it's on the table. Which is funny to say, but
yeah?
it's just true.
Seventh land from Parnell and no play. Jim will do the same. His hand here is so strong, though. Disallow. 2 disallows. Looks like. A Torrential Gear Hulk. A Horribly Awry. 2 Ruinous Paths. Not only does he have all these great cards, he's not even going to cast any of them.
Jim's going to draw up to a full grip. Parnell, I believe, 4 cards in his hand. Jim's just running away with this one.
Fathom Feeder count at 2. Jim draws a land and then another land. This is great. Just plays some Merged Boneyard, says go.
Pretty soon, Jim's going to be at the stage where he's going to have 9 cards in his hand. He's going to make a land drop.
And then
he's going to attack with the Fathom Feeder because he wants to use a removal spell instead of discarding it.
Gross. I mean, great.
It's nice.
Yeah, Jim has 8 cards in hand. So here's Fathom Feeder attacking. Yeah. Parnell does have a lot of plays. He has Elder Deep Fiend in hand. He could go for a block. Jim's hand's so good right now. 2 disallows, negate, horribly awry. So 4 counter spells. Glimmer of Genius. If I'm in Jim's spot, I almost want to negate this, Ryan, just because I don't want to discard.
He has so much interaction. I like a negate quite a lot here.
Well, if I don't, maybe just what if I let Justin draw cards and then he doesn't do anything else, then I have to discard.
Yeah.
So I don't want, and I hate discarding.
Discarding's lame.
That's card disadvantage.
I want to draw a lot of cards and cast enough of them where I don't have to discard them.
I want to draw cards and cast all of them.
I want to cast a non-zero number.
So negate hits the Glimmer of Genius. The Fathom Feeder ingests a card off Justin's deck. And then we just say go. 7 cards in hand still for Jim Davis. So be on note here, right? If you're going to play a control mirror, Fathom Feeder is a card.
Yeah.
And you got to kill that thing or this happens. Jim's 3rd card off Fathom Feeder this game gets a Blighted Cataract. And another Fathom Feeder. Sure, maybe we'll start ingesting the whole deck. Justin's down to 17, gets the top card of his deck.
And with Jim drawing the 2nd Fathom Feeder, you kind of see why the number is limited to 2. The 2nd copy doesn't really do anything unless the 1st copy dies.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's like the Gideon problem, right? If you have too many Gideons in hand, that means your Gideon on board isn't dead.
The Gideon problem solves itself. You just emblem one and then cast another one.
People talk about that, was it the 7 Jace decks? 4 Mind Sculptors, 3 Bellerins. You'd be like, why do you play so many Jaces? They're legendary. It means it's because I always have Jace in play then.
Well, the rule was different. You could use Jace Bellerin to destroy Jace the Mind Sculptor.
He was a
back
kill
then.
spell, yeah, that's
Right.
true. Because your opponent was also playing Jace.
Right.
End step from Parnell will be an 8-mana Elder Deep Fiend. Targeting looks to be 4 of Jim's lands. And this is where Jim's got to be careful, right? Because Justin is probably setting up to combo.
Yeah, this is actually a slightly precarious spot for Jim. He cast the Fathom Feeder, so now he only has 8 lands up.
It's one of those situations where the right play, you think, was just to discard the Fathom Feeder?
Well, the right play from here might be to disallow the Elder Deep Fiend trigger so that he can leave up Horribly Awry and disallow.
Right, you can counter the trigger instead of the 5/6. It's strange when a trigger's tapping 4 of your lands to be like, no, I'll tap 3 of them to keep my last land.
Right.
But I kind of like it.
So there's a disallow. We'll find out if it's on the trigger. Or
You are right.
Yeah.
It is on the trigger.
Yeah,
Okay.
just wants to keep up this interaction so he's not cold to the combo.
Yeah, Parnell only has 3 cards in hand. So if he has the combo with double counterspell backup, it would win here. But that's a lot of mana to have.
Yeah, and with a Deep Fiend on the table, that's pretty much okay, because Jim has a redundant Fathom Feeder with Death Touch to block it.
Oh, they have Death Touch? Oh, yeah, they do have Death Touch. That card does so many things. Yeah, wow. Second line.
You might think this card has flavor text.
Does Justin know that? He's attacking. I forgot it. I would have definitely just attacked into it. Okay, no, Justin knew. Makes the trade. He's just running out of cards. Justin down to 3 cards in hand.
Yep, and one of them is Felidar Guardian.
Oh, we're going to back card number 4 off Fathom Feeder. We're at that 10 land mark again. And Jim, yeah, negate, land. This is just, he's just got it all. There's so much temptation just to play a blue Gear Hulk because I don't want to discard them. You know, like.
No, ending the game with Gear Hulks in your hand is the best
so good.
feeling. That's the
Yeah.
best feeling.
No, you're right. I don't like trying to win, but the part I'd be scared of is like, I don't want to discard them. I don't like discarding my cards. That's for me the struggle is, right? Like,
Yeah.
I don't want to discard these. They're my friends.
Jim's
like,
been doing a good job of not having to discard. He has 7 excellent spells in his hand currently.
He has 2 Ruinous Paths. He's got multiple Tuner's Paths, 2 Gear Hulks. Okay, he's going to play a Gear Hulk on Justin's end step. Speed up the clock a little bit. I suppose there's a Glimmer of Genius in the yard. Justin will disallow.
You can fight or not. This kind of
Yeah, I
doesn't
don't
matter.
know. Sure. I mean, I think anything that encourages a 1-for-1 trade is probably good for Jim.
Yeah, he has enough mana and enough cards where he can just fight over this.
And negate from Jim, negate from Parnell. But so if these are all cards that are trading, all these counter spells, well, that's fine by Jim. He'll trade and then he'll draw some more.
Yep.
And disallow back. And on top of that, he's going to win the counter war, it looks like.
Yeah, and Parnell just doesn't have enough cards to keep up with this.
Yeah.
And now he's going to fall even farther behind.
Glimmer of Genius from Jim Davis. 2 Grasp of Darkness says, not interested in those. How about another negate, though? He'll draw that and a land. I'm pretty sure those are both winners.
Yes.
And another land. Swing for 6 from Davis puts Parnell down to 11. 12 lands now in play for Jim Davis. Just passes. Parnell, 3 cards.
Picks up a land, I think.
Yeah. Nahiri. This is his last real card. Once Jim counters this, Parnell's playing off the top of the deck.
And this is another thing. Jim can counter it or choose not to counter it. He still has 2 Ruinous Paths in his hand.
He could negate. He's just going to play Torrential Gearhulk and negate it that way. Seems better.
And now he has lethal attackers.
Felidar Guardian.
That one's going to get countered and
Ruinous
Ruinous Pathed, whatever.
Horribly awry. And Jim, commanding fashion. He wins that one in 3. Fathom Feeder. When Jim wins both sideboard games, the turn 2 Fathom Feeder that just runs away with the game.
Yeah, Parnell had some tools that did upgrade his deck going into the sideboard, but post-sideboard with Parnell still trying to execute the combo and Jim being both very heavy on interaction and heavy on card advantage, he made that look pretty easy, actually. And Jim's deck just looks like a great call for this weekend.
Yeah, it looks like a great call.